Ravens Wrap is brought to you by Bud Light, FlyLady.net, Ocean City Golf Club, Comfort Inn Gold Coast, Ravens247.com, the original Green Turtle Sports Bar and Grill, and hosted by the Blue Ox Bar and Grill.
And welcome in. It's week number 3 in the NFL. It is the Ravens Wrap Show here on Comcast Beach TV, also heard on Delmarva's Rock Radio, 93.5 The Beach, the strongest Ravens signaled affiliate here on the eastern shore of Maryland and Delaware. I'm Mike Bradley. Of course, you know me from my music radio days here at B101.7 and now up at 105.7 The Fan in Baltimore doing sports talk. To my left, editor-in-chief of Ravens247.com, Mr. Tony Lombardi. To his left, OC Local, host of a gazillion golf shows all over the place, Bobby Vermillion. Welcome back, Bobby.
Good to be back, Mike.
Also, OC Local and former Lehigh College player, John Gehrig. John, good to see you again this week. That's 2 weeks in a row. That's a record for you.
Working on.
Yeah, well, we are broadcasting from 127th Street and Coastal Highway, Bayside, Ocean City, here at the Ravens Room at the Blue Ox, home of Ravens Roost number 44. Yeah. Guys, give yourselves a hand. And, of course, we invite all Ravens fans to come down for our Wednesday showing here of the Ravens Wrap Show. Well, guys, not quite the victorious feeling that we had last week as the Ravens fall to the Titans 26-13. A 358-yard passing performance by Tennessee quarterback Matt Hasselbeck. The Titans dominated time of possession 36-24, outscored the Ravens 16-3 in the second half. The Ravens turned the ball over 3 times, including 2 interceptions by quarterback Joe Flacco, who completed 15 of 32 for 197 yards. Guys, I think Bruce Laird said it best last week when he said, it's never as good as you think it is. It's never as bad as you think it is. Not only does that go probably for the Pittsburgh game, obviously, but for the Titans game as well. But clearly the Pittsburgh game, I think, maybe, set our minds off the fact that we had so many offseason changes that really, when you look at it, we were due for some peaks and valleys the first couple of weeks of the season with all the new personnel we had, Tony.
Yeah, and I think, too, when you have just 2 games to compare, you've got the Pittsburgh Steelers game where we were dominant, beat them up on both sides of the line of scrimmage, and then you got the Tennessee Titans game where the Ravens came out flat. So those are the 2 games you have to compare it to. It's not like you have this big body of work. Right now, you have to figure out which one of those Ravens teams is for real, and I guess we'll find out this week in St. Louis.
Yeah, but I think it's safe to say none of us saw that coming last week. I mean, it was really disappointing to see a team that dominated and played so well in week 1 and come back in week 2. And if you're a really quality football team and you're looking to get better each week, and we thought the Ravens would improve each week, it's really disappointing as a fan to watch them play as flat and as bad as they did on every aspect of the game, whether it's offense, defense, special teams, and even the coaching staff. I know we're going to get into that a lot, but certainly they were flat. I was at the game, Mike, this week in Tennessee, and I will tell you there was a number of Ravens fans there. Obviously, it's very disappointing when you go on the road and the Ravens lose because it's not a whole lot of fun. But the Tennessee fans were very nice. They've always been. They're a great. It's a great place to go watch a game if you're an away team fan, if you will. They don't badge you too much, and unfortunately for Ravens fans, they didn't have a whole lot to cheer about in that game.
John, your thoughts on the game Sunday?
I think this whole coming out flat is just BS. I mean, there was so much talk last week here. There was a lot of talk. Harbaugh was asked and got frustrated being asked, being warned about coming out flat. Right. You come out flat, and you can if you come out flat, you can see a series, maybe a quarter of coming out, not playing well. You go in at halftime 10-10, feeling lucky that you're even in this game after how they played. And then to just come out in the second half and put up 3 points, and a questionable 3 points at that. It's not coming out flat. We were either out prepared, out schemed, or just flat out beat. So I don't think it's a flat issue. I just think we got beat by a team that was better prepared, we were out schemed in this game.
John Harbaugh said during the press conference on Monday the fact that, hey, if we had a bad week of practice, that we didn't look good leading into that game, hey, I'd come up and say that. He said we had a great week of practice. But, John, to your point, I think it's well taken, Tony, is that, the first half was pretty ugly for the Ravens, and obviously they weren't going to match the level of intensity in the Tennessee game as they did in Pittsburgh. Obviously different games. But, right, to come out in the second half and be lackluster the way they were in the first half, that was surprising to me.
Yeah, I think it's you got to point at the coaches when it comes down to it, because when you look at what the Ravens did defensively, it's almost like they said, it was almost arrogant, because if you look at what they said, we're going to take out Chris Johnson, and we're going to let Matt Hasselbeck try to beat us.
and he not only beat them, he tore them to shreds. So I think there was some arrogance on that side of the football. On the offensive side of the ball, it was almost like watching the Ravens play the Colts. When you've got a fast cover 2 type team and you really can't get anything going. The Ravens seem to struggle against that. Cam Cameron's play calling seems to struggle against it, and we've got no answer for that. And it's been that way for a long time.
I think they were emotionally flat too. I mean, I think the team was so excited to play Pittsburgh. I think they geared up for so long, and I think they were emotionally spent. I mean, it was very difficult. Like you said, John, I think you made a good point. You can say a team's flat, but if you get punched in the face, if you're in a fist fight, sooner or later you're going to start fighting back. It just seemed like the Ravens really never matched the intensity of the Titans, and you can say that going into the game if you're flat. But after the third or fourth series, or even the second quarter, and particularly the second half, you got to be a good team has to respond and come back and is ready to play. And maybe they were just emotionally they spent a lot of time on the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they certainly didn't come anywhere close with the intensity they played in Week 1.
John, we just have a few seconds here, but I would expect that to be ramped up next week against St. Louis.
St. Louis is in a bad way right now, so this is we get another average team. We get a chance to go out and beat. So we'll see what happens.
We'll talk more about the Ravens Titans coming up next on the Ravens Wrap Show here on Comcast Beach TV.
In April 1959, Art Wall won the Masters, edging out Carey Middlecoff and Arnold Palmer by finishing birdie, 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 par birdie. 1 month later, Ocean City Golf Club celebrated the opening of their first 18 holes. That course has been transformed now into one of the most scenic golf layouts on the East Coast. Come experience 36 of the most beautiful and challenging holes you'll find anywhere. Ocean City Golf Club in Ocean City, Maryland.
What's going on?
We're giving Matt the NFL experience of a high-pressure field goal.
Look out! It's terrible, man!
There's an easier way to get an ultimate NFL fan experience. Just snap the tag wherever Bud Light is sold and you can win. Bud Light in the NFL. Here we go.
Hey, it gets easier. Really? No.
Welcome back in. It is the Ravens Wrap Show for the Blue Ox, 127th Street and Coastal Highway at Ocean City here on Comcast Beach TV. Also, Delmarva's Rock Radio, home of the Ravens, 93.5 The Beach. And I want to thank some sponsors, our friends at Bud Light, also FlyLady.net, Ocean City Golf Club, Comfort Inn Gold Coast, Ravens247.com, the original Green Turtle Sports Bar and Grill right down the street, and of course the folks here at the Blue Ox Bar and Grill. Tony Lombardi, Bobby Vermillion, John Garrick joining me, Mike Bradley. And guys, one of the things that stuck out to me in this game, and we talked about this last week a little bit, and I'm not second guessing John Harbaugh. I would have made this decision from the get-go, but you look at what Kenny Britt did against the Ravens defense, and to me, when you have 3 healthy corners going into that Pittsburgh game, I'm sorry. How does Jimmy Smith play on special teams? He gets hurt. To me, Jimmy Smith was the perfect guy to be physical and try to at least lock down Kenny Britt and prevent some of what happened on Sunday, but they had no such answer because Jimmy Smith's hurt because he was on special teams.
Yeah, it gets back to what I was saying before, Mike. I think there was arrogance on the part of the Ravens. They just said that we're going to take Chris Johnson out of the game and we're going to let Matt Hasselbeck beat us. Kenny Britt, when the Ravens have faced a team like the Titans, when they've had a big receiver like that, they've bracketed the guy. And they didn't do that on Sunday either. So I got to wonder, if I would say bracket Kenny Britt, take CJ out of the game, and then let Nate Washington beat me.
Agreed.
But they didn't do that. And, during the course of the game, as they keep getting these 6, 7, 8 yard passes, and then he's running with the football afterwards, at some point you got to get the coaches, and they got to rattle their cage a little bit and say, do whatever you got to do, but stop this from happening. And they didn't do any of that.
I think we were a little blinded by the first game, too, with 7 turnovers created by the Ravens. You know, it's amazing. You look at the game and you talk about Kenny Britt. He had 9 receptions for 135 yards. In 2 games, the Ravens receivers have had 9 receptions, and 7 of those receptions have gone to Anquan Boldin, and 2 have gone to Lee Evans. So Britt has had more production, really, than the Ravens receivers. So you don't see Torrey Smith. There's we still don't know what he's capable of right now. We have not thrown at Torrey Smith yet.
Don't even need to guard that guy. He just kind of wanders around, meanders around. He can't catch the ball.
But what also we heard was David Reed came back this week, and really he was absent. Obviously, he got hurt.
Right.
But even in the first half, they never threw to David Reed either. So here's a situation where you got Matt Hasselbeck, a new quarterback in a new system with a new head coach, and you always hear about this chemistry. You know, we didn't have OTAs, we didn't have this or that. Well, Kenny Britt and Matt Hasselbeck never played together before, and that looked like Tom Brady and Randy Moss.
Like
I mean, so it was pitch and catch, and whether Jimmy Smith's in there or not, it was unacceptable for the Ravens defense to play the way they did.
Well, I think they were prepared, and Matt Hasselbeck is a veteran, a pro, and if he sees an aggressive corner, and you can kind of, stutter step or make a stop move and go, and I mean, against our aggressive corners, he was open all day. And let's face it, we talked about this last week. Kenny Britt's a damn good player. I mean, he's just one of the elite wide receivers, young elite wide receivers. Hakeem Nicks was in the same draft class. Those guys are good, and they're a tough cover no matter who's on the other side.
Now, John, I agree with you to some extent that the corners, at least at first, some of which were aggressive. They tried to play a little press coverage, but now our buddy Bruce Laird, former Baltimore Colt All-Pro safety, is not here. And, his theme is WAG. When the secondary, wild-ass guesses. I'm sorry, folks. If Bruce Laird was here, we had wild-ass cushion. Too much cushion. If we can't get a pass rush on Matt Hasselbeck, you can't play 10 yards off these guys and let them, throw 7-yard slant-ins and hitches all day to these guys. Where was the secondary playing up on these receivers?
Yeah, where was the secondary? Where were the corners? And really, where were Ed Reed and Todd Zbikowski the whole time? And Zbikowski, he gets the nod over Haruki Nakamura and Bernard Pollard. You look at Pollard, he's a guy that got $3 million for 2 years to come here, and he's done nothing. They're not giving him a chance to do anything. And then you look at Haruki Nakamura, he's a much better cover guy, and I would argue he's a better tackler than Zbikowski, who really Z for 0.
Yeah.
Well, I know this. Pollard, I think, was a little frustrated. I could see him on the sidelines at times because he didn't play as much in this game as I think he really wanted to. Obviously, he's a better player against the run. Physically, he really can dominate that, but the run was never an issue. We did a great job of stopping Chris Johnson. So if you're looking for one good thing out of the game on the defensive side of the ball, we did a great job taking away Chris Johnson. We had the crowd, the home crowd, booing their best player and franchise player in Chris Johnson. And we still couldn't get things done with Matt Hasselbeck because, again, he's let go from Seattle, comes here and looks like comes to this game and looks like Tom Brady.
And, John, I argued this on my talk show in Baltimore is that, we know that we can stop the run, and teams know that, but in a way, I don't know if they care because if our corners can't play, if we can't stop receivers to pitch and catch, hey, that's fine. They're going to throw it against us. That's the way to beat us anyway.
Yeah, if we don't get any pressure, don't get in his face, and at least disrupt the just the flow of the offense. I mean, that's going to create problems too. And then you're putting these young corners, inexperienced corners, in a perilous position. And we saw that, and we're going to continue to see that. Even in the St. Louis game this week, I mean, we're going to face some decent receivers. So will we stop the run? Yeah, Cadillac may not get off, and Steven Jackson may be on the sidelines. But if we can't stop a pass, we saw that the Rams can go up and down the field. And, we just have to cover. And we got to get pressure.
And guys, again, I have to go back to the fact that Jimmy Smith unavailable for the game because he got hurt playing special teams in week 1. I think that was huge. Chris Carr is not playing. Dominic Foxworth clearly not 100%. He had a tough time out there. So we'll continue to pick up the conversation, offense, defense, and how they perform. The Ravens, 26-13 losers to the Tennessee Titans week 2. More of the Ravens Wrap Show coming up next on Comcast Beach TV.
Ravens Wrap is brought to you by Bud Light, FlyLady.net, Ocean City Golf Club, Comfort Inn Gold Coast, Ravens247.com, the original Green Turtle Sports Bar and Grill, and hosted by the Blue Ox Bar and Grill. Ravens Wrap is brought to you by Bud Light, FlyLady.net, Ocean City Golf Club, Comfort Inn Gold Coast, Ravens247.com, the original Green Turtle Sports Bar and Grill, and hosted by the Blue Ox Bar and Grill.
Welcome back into the Ravens Wrap Show for the Blue Ox, 127th Street and Coastal Highway in Ocean City here on Comcast Beach TV. Also in Delmarva's Rock Radio, home of the Ravens, 93.5 The Beach. Mike Bradley, Tony Lombardi, Bobby Vermillion, John Garrick joining us. Bruce Laird with the week off. And, hey, if he's going to pick a week to be off, I understand. And got to sit on the sidelines for this one. But again, with our buddy Bruce not here, I'm trying to take the place of Bruce. And, guys, we talked about the offensive line and the fact that we were shocked at how well they came together and gelled against Pittsburgh. But clearly against Tennessee, that was not the case. Now, Ben Grubbs started 61 straight games out with a toe injury. You can't discount that by any stretch of the imagination. Michael Orr, Bryant McKinnie had tough games. Again, as our buddy Bruce would say, offensive line production in week 2, Ungats, folks. Ungats had nothing. There was no running game, very little pass protection. Bobby, it was tough sledding on Sunday.
It really was, and it gets back to kind of the things that are a little scary is some of the things that we saw last year. And that is if you can stop the Ravens running game, you put them in an awkward situation. And we weren't able to run the football with Ray Rice, and that forced us to put the ball in the air, and Flacco was getting a little bit of pressure. Receivers weren't coming clear, and our offense wasn't productive at all. It was amazing. We talked about this going into the first game of the year. The definition of insanity is repeating the same behavior and expecting a different result. Well, they didn't change their offense. They never went to a no huddle. They didn't try to speed the flow up. A few times they went to the shotgun and went 4 or 5 wide. But pretty much the whole game, they tried to stick with their base offense, and it just wasn't working. And obviously, Flacco didn't throw the ball around. We talked about it earlier. Torrey Smith, not a catch. David Reed, not a factor. The 2 tight ends who had great games against Pittsburgh, not a factor in the game, and the offensive line couldn't run block. So if that happens, you're in some trouble.
And John, against cover 2, you would think that the tight ends would be a big factor, pressing the middle of the field, splitting those 2 deep safeties, making them choose one way or the other. Where were they?
Well, I think what happens here, Lee Evans is hurting us. I mean, he's not healthy, so they can sit on his routes and his speed and the ability to stretch the field so that the underneath even gets open. And then it would bring in pressure. Ray Rice has to, he's in there pass protecting against six guys, 300 pounds, getting tossed around. So, it was just, I go back to it. It was just a good scheme. We didn't attack the weaknesses in the seams and really stretching the field against the cover 2. And those little flag routes, I mean, they're wide open, but you got to get receivers that can get out there, and then a little bit of protection to let the seam routes develop.
And Tony, offensively, in terms of the offense, John Harbaugh said that in terms of package-wise towards the end, they went to a 2-minute drill in terms of the offensive plays, but they certainly didn't use the hurry-up as we talked about, and he said he didn't want to rush it. Is that a product of so many new players that they're worried that guys are rushing things, that they're going to have missed assignments?
When they do things and say things like that, I think it's that they didn't practice the way they wanted, the way the game unfolded. They weren't prepared for this game to unfold as it did. And when you're not prepared and you don't prepare that way in practice, you can't execute on game day. These Pittsburgh Steelers, they bring a level of familiarity to the Ravens, and the Ravens really know that team. So when the defensive line of the Titans is stunting up front, and you got one of your main links in that chain, Ben Grubbs, out, I think that creates problems. There's communication issues. Bryant McKinnie looked like he aged 5 years in 1 week. And Michael Orr, it's your mark, get set, go. Down, set, hike. How many times is he going to jump offside? So you keep backing up instead of moving forward, and all those things. It's just a rhythmic thing on that offense, and it happens time and time again with the same defensive scheme that they face, a fast cover 2.
And Tony, you're right, and we've talked about this for years. At some point, Joe needs to take over. At some point, he just needs to get a little bit of tempo going. He needs to get the guys out of the huddle. He needs to create a little urgency. He needs to slap the guys in the helmet a little bit and say, let's go, take control and take charge. He looked so cool and calm against the Steelers, and then we're walking up to the line of scrimmage, taking delay of game penalties at critical times of the game. I mean, there's just a lack of urgency in everything, including calling the plays and getting out of the huddle.
Bobby, down 14. Okay, you decide to kick the field goal there. Now, John Harbaugh says 4th and 11. The odds are you're not going to get the score there, that we're going to go ahead and get the 3. But I can take that if your defense is shutting down Tennessee and there's more time in the game. Defense wasn't stopping anybody. I think 6 of the last 7 possessions Tennessee scored. So I don't know how John Harbaugh could explain that. He tried to on Monday, but to me, not satisfactory.
And that drive took about 5 or 6 minutes off the clock. And you made a great point, Mike, and there's been written about all week long, is that the Ravens had no sense of urgency. John just alluded to that a moment ago. They were walking to the huddle. They were taking time off the play clock. They were acting like they were leading by 13 points instead of trailing by 13. So I was sitting there watching the game, and all the fans that were around us, all the Ravens fans, were sitting there, what are they doing? How come they're not getting to the line of scrimmage, hurrying up? Even if they're not going to go no huddle, they can at least not trim the play clock down to 8 or 6 on every possession, because that just takes time off the clock. They end up kicking the field goal. With 6:56 remaining in the game, we're still down with 2 scores, and like you said, we weren't doing anything to stop the Titans, and the Titans kept throwing the ball. They actually gave us a break because they threw on first down, and they put the game away. They were playing the game to win, and it just looked like the Ravens weren't.
Yeah, it's tough to explain, and I think that's some of the frustrating areas.
It's indefensible.
Yeah.
No, it really is. When you look at his rationale was that the odds 4th and 11 of scoring that touchdown, come on. I mean, the odds of holding the team down 2 times and getting it back and scoring twice were greater than that.
I have a different
We'll talk about it more. The Ravens-Titans coming up next on Comcast Beach TV.
What's this all about?
We're giving Rich the NFL experience of a goal line dive.
Really?
There's an easier way to get an ultimate NFL fan experience. Just snap the tag wherever Bud Light is sold and you could win. Bud Light in the NFL. Here we go.
Can I make it?
On the internet, yes. Into the end zone, no.
Beach Television Network. Your vacation starts here. Thank you for watching Beach Television Network.
It's the Ravens Wrap Show from the Blue Ox 127th Street and Coastal Highway in the Ravens Room. Mike Bradley, Tony Lombardi, Bobby Vermillion, John Gehrig. Want to thank some sponsors, our friends at Bud Light, FlyLady.net, the Ocean City Golf Club, Comfort Inn Gold Coast, Ravens247.com, the original Green Turtle Sports Bar and Grill right down the street, and the fine folks here at the Blue Ox Bar and Grill. Guys, last segment we were talking about the decision to kick the field goal with about 7 seconds left, 7 minutes left. Down 14. Most of us disagree, but John, you had a different take on it.
Well, we talk about the defense not being able to stop anyone, but the offense wasn't doing anything either. So you can't waste the drive. You got to take the points, and it's the Ravens defense we're talking about, and it's not just this game issue. We look at the legacy of the Ravens defense, and you got to think that the Titans are going to come out, run the ball, take some time off the clock, and they'll be able to get the ball back. And the Ravens defense, maybe there'll be some leadership on the defensive side that'll happen in the fourth quarter. Someone needs to just step up, take control, and be a leader in the fourth quarter. And it's not about when you're winning, 35-7. Leaders don't appear and magically everybody's a leader then. Everybody's feeling good then. It's when someone needs to make a play. Who's going to step up and take control? And no one did. So maybe John says the defense will step up Ray will get this team, will get a stop when we need a stop. So I think kicking the field goal down 10 with 7 minutes to go, we can score 2 touches or a touch and a field goal.
Tony, you had some thoughts
No,
about
I
the game
completely
plan?
disagree because that legacy gave up 350 yards of passing offense to Matt Hasselbeck, and I'm sorry, that's in the history books. That's a nice story, but it's not working on game day. When I look at it this way, you got to throw all the odds about 4th and goal from the 11 out the window, because to me, the way that game was unfolding and the way the Ravens were getting the snot kicked out of them on the offensive and defensive lines, I think you got to say, I'm going to take my shot right here and right now, and if they can stop them, they can stop them again from the 11-yard line, and let's take a shot at getting this touchdown, because that's the only way we're going to win the game. The chances of that touchdown happening, in my opinion, at that point in time, in that game, the way that thing was unfolding was greater than them stopping them 2 times and scoring 2 more times.
I think you have to look at how you got in that situation in the first place. You had 3rd and 5, and 4th and 5. 3rd and 5, we throw an incomplete pass to Anquan Bolden, and then we get a delay of game.
Off, right?
Yeah, get into a delay of game. So now we get moved back 5 yards. So now it's 4th and 11. If we don't get the delay of game, there's a chance that we do go for it. But even in that situation, one of the things that hurt us, and kicking the field goal may have been the right move in that situation, but we took like 5 or 6 minutes off the clock because, again, that sense of urgency wasn't there. So really, whether you kick the field goal or whether you don't is irrelevant at that point. You both make good points. But the fact is, we took way too much time off the clock. It was going to be very difficult to win that game at that point. I know we didn't feel very comfortable with 6:56 left, and they got the ball back, and they went down and ended up scoring again. So I think that's history. The defense didn't stop them, and we put ourselves in a bad situation.
There is no arguing that we wasted a lot of time.
No, I agree with that.
No
Again,
question.
John Harbaugh talked about the fact they went to a 2-minute package, but they didn't run it like a 2-minute package. And maybe that's a product of the lack of OTAs with the new personnel, but it certainly, at the end of the day, kept us from getting on the board the way we needed to and taking the least amount of time possible. And guys, I want to get back to the defense again. I'll bring up our buddy Bruce. Always talks about alignment and assignment down and distance. And Bruce left a note for Dominic Foxworth in his locker and said, "Dear Dominic Foxworth, from one DB to another, please remember to add when playing corner, alignment, assignment, down and distance." He's matched up against Kenny Britt, and he's backpedaling 4 yards into the end zone when all he needs to do is get the ball at the goal line, and it's a touchdown. First off, guys, I don't know how the secondary didn't watch Kenny Britt out of the huddle, why Kerry Williams isn't taking him, why you have a hobbled Dominic Foxworth. To me, that's inexcusable. But for Dominic to play that kind of technique, I don't care if bum knee or not, that's just, that's Pop Warner high school stuff.
Yeah, it was inexcusable. It was a bad matchup. You had to believe Hasselbeck was licking his chops when he saw that matchup, and I think Harbaugh kind of admitted that. He didn't say it directly in his press conference, but he knows that Foxworth's hurt. Unfortunately, we're banged up on that side of the ball, and particularly with our corners. And I think he's struggling right now. But who else do you put out there? Kerry Williams, we got from Tennessee. I don't think he's looking to go back to Tennessee anytime soon because he got burnt like toast this week. He had played well against the Steelers, but he's a guy that we asked to step up this year. We were hoping to have Jimmy Smith on the other side. I think he's a good football player. Probably hurt his confidence a little bit early in that game when he got beat a few times. I think he's going to be okay. But, I agree with you. He's a big corner. I would have much rather seen him on press coverage on Kenny Britt in that situation than having Foxworth playing at the line of scrimmage. And here's the funny thing. They could have got a first down on that play, too. It was 3rd down, and they only needed a couple yards. They could have gotten to the 2-yard line to get a first down, and Foxworth lets them score a touchdown in the end zone.
But guys, we talk about the fact that Kerry Williams, though, and Jimmy Smith are new corners. So to be fair, can't we not expect some ups and downs from these guys, especially guys that haven't played much at starting a corner?
Yeah, we can, but like you said before, Mike, the technique wasn't there. When you're backing up 4 yards deep in the end zone, come on. You're giving a guy a touchdown at that point in time.
John, your thoughts on the secondary play?
I'm afraid to disagree. Actually, I'd love to disagree, but what else is there to say? It wasn't good. We didn't get the pressure. We got no help. Nobody else stepped up to help the secondary. I thought we were just out schemed. And any of us that have played ball, sometimes we have the better team, the better personnel, and you just get beat. There's nothing we can do. The other team's just hot. So I think that's what happened. No need to panic.
I guess to be fair, switching back to the offensive side of the ball, to be fair to Cam Cameron, the line play just wasn't there.
Ravens Wrap is brought to you by Bud Light, FlyLady.net, Ocean City Golf Club, Comfort Inn Gold Coast, Ravens247.com, the original Green Turtle Sports Bar and Grill, and hosted by the Blue Ox Bar and Grill. Ravens Wrap is brought to you by Bud Light, FlyLady.net, Ocean City Golf Club, Comfort Inn Gold Coast, Ravens247.com, the original Green Turtle Sports Bar and Grill, and hosted by the Blue Ox Bar and Grill.
And welcome back in. It is the Ravens Wrap Show for the Blue Ox, 127th Street and Coastal Highway in Ocean City here at the Ravens Room on Comcast Beach TV, also Delmarva's Rock Radio and home of the Ravens, 93.5 The Beach. Mike Bradley and Tony Lombardi. It is our Ravens247.com Insider segment. And Tony, big news this week. Haloti Ngata reaches a deal on Tuesday with the Ravens, a 5-year deal. Give us the breakdown on the deal and what this does financially for the Ravens. And then where do they go from here? Because you got Joe Flacco and Ray Rice who need contract extensions. Break it down for us.
Well, what happened about a month ago, I was told that the Ravens were close to Haloti Ngata's deal. 6 years, $72 million, 35 to 40 of it guaranteed. And I was told it was pretty much a done deal, but then a month went by, even more than a month, Mike. And then finally yesterday at the deadline, which is kind of like the Ravens' MO these days, to wait till the deadline.
Like the Orioles here, down to the last second.
They get it done, 5 years, $61 million, $40 million of it guaranteed. Haloti Ngata is going to make $27.1 million in 2011. I have no idea how he's going to get by on that little bit of money.
Gas prices what they are these days.
I mean, come on. He's got to get back and forth to the stadium. He's got a new kid to feed. How's he going to get by? But no, all kidding aside, what that deal did is it freed up $5.4 million in cap space. And you talked about what might the Ravens do with that cap space. Will they look to extend Joe Flacco or Ray Rice or perhaps Ben Grubbs? Let's talk about those three if we can, real quickly. Ray Rice, I think, is a guy who's going to be targeted as a franchise player in 2012. Because when you look around the league, you look at guys that maybe they're going to compare him to, or at least his agent's going to compare him to, Adrian Peterson and Chris Johnson, and the kind of deals that they got. We all know that the NFL life of an NFL back isn't real long, so that's a risky proposition. My bet is that Ozzie Newsome takes a gamble on him as a franchise player in 2012. Joe Flacco, no need to extend him right now. In my opinion, you don't really know what you got with this guy long term, so why not wait until his rookie contract expires? He's got another year after 2011, so why not wait until then? And Ben Grubbs, I think the writing is on the wall that he is not going to be a Raven in 2012.
Really?
Because it has nothing to do with Ben's play. He's a really solid player, but when they signed Marshall Yanda to that long-term deal, and now we find that they've got tackle issues at left tackle. We don't know if Bryant McKinney's a long-term answer. Michael Orr is not the long-term answer. They admitted that so much by moving him to right tackle. Now you've got a logjam at right tackle with Ja Reed and Michael Orr, so they've got a left tackle to address. I think what they're going to do is find a player like Marshall Yanda in the draft, a second, third-round guy from one of those conferences like where he played at Iowa, and plug him into the left guard position next year. So I think Ben Grubbs has probably played his last down when this season's over.
Really, that's very interesting. Next year we're going to be looking at left tackle, left guard, and center all being drafted by the Baltimore Ravens. Well, with the money that's freed up, Tony, this week we know Lee Evans not 100%, Dominic Foxworth is not 100%, and John Harbaugh said I may just have to sit these guys down until they're healthy. With there being money out there, is there any chance of the Ravens making any deals for a corner, for a wide receiver? And if not, what maneuvering within the roster are they going to do?
I think what they're going to do is just save the money. And because if you look around, the Ravens' needs, you could argue maybe a wide receiver, maybe a corner, but look around the league. What wide receivers are out there that might attract you that are better than what they have? Why not give your 10 and Dawson's on the roster a little bit of a chance to make a dent or make an impact? And then you look at the corners in the market. The Dallas Cowboys right now are a team that really needs corners, and who do they just pick up? Frank Walker. That gives you an idea of the quality that's out there. So maybe they just go with what they have. So I think they're going to stay status quo. There's a thing called not likely to be earned incentives. that the Ravens, for instance, they can say to Morgan Cox, we're going to give you this incentive money if you score 6 touchdowns this year. Now, Morgan Cox is the long snapper, so we know that's not going to happen, but it's money that they can put into the salary cap this year, which is then unearned that they can carry forward next year to be used as a credit and really expand their cap in the future.
Some quick rapid fire. David Reed out for the next 3 weeks. He was hurt last year. Are the Ravens, I know it's early, but are they concerned that they've got another Demetrius Williams on their hands?
Yeah, they are concerned about that because David Reed, as good as they think he is, in practice he's lights out. But when you suit it up, when he gets and the lights come on for real, he's always injured. And I found it unusual that he was running as the L5 on kickoffs. Right next to the kicker. Right. He's a little bit too small for doing that. I think that's what had happened is AC separation.
I don't know what the Ravens are doing with their guys on special teams, but they're not doing a good job with it. All right, this coming Sunday, Sergio Kindle, Shockey Brown, Tandon Doss. Are we going to see any of these guys suit up Sunday?
I think Shockey Brown could get a start, but there is some talk that Chris Carr may be a go this week. And if Chris Carr is a go, I think Shockey stays as an inactive for this Sunday's game against the St. Louis Rams.
Okay, a couple of things quickly that you could tell us insider-wise that we're not going to hear anywhere else.
Well, I think I let the cat out of the bag.
I think you did with Ben
Grubbs.
So,
yep. Ben's a good player. He's really thought of, and obviously we missed him last week. He's got this toe injury he's suffering with right now, and he might not even go against the Rams. So we'll see what happens there. But Ben Grubbs is a guy I think because of the contract Marchionne signed, as I said before, I don't think he's a Raven in 2012.
Tony Lombardi, the insider for Ravens247.com, voted Baltimore's best. Tony, thanks so much. We'll talk about the upcoming game against the St. Louis Rams as the Ravens Wrap Show continues on Comcast Beach TV at Delmarva's Rock Radio 93.5 The Beach.
We're giving Matt the NFL experience of a high-pressure field goal.
Look out! It's terrible, man! There's an easier way to get an ultimate NFL fan experience. Just snap the tag wherever Bud Light is sold and you can win. Bud Light in the NFL. Here we go.
Hey, it gets easier. Really? No.
Beach Television Network. Your vacation starts here. Thank you for watching Beach Television Network.
There we go. Welcome back in. It is the Ravens Wrap Show for the Blue Ox, 127th Street and Coastal Highway in Ocean City here on Comcast Beach TV. Also Delmarva's Rock Radio 93.5 The Beach. Want to thank our sponsors, Bud Light, FlyLady.net, the Ocean City Golf Club, Comfort Inn Gold Coast, Ravens247.com, the original Green Turtle Sports Bar and Grill, and the Blue Ox Bar and Grill right here at 127th Street. Mike Bradley. Got us Tony Lombardi, Bobby Vermillion in today for Bruce Laird and John Gehrig.
We missed the Stallion this week, though.
We did. By the way, he went 2-0, right?
He did go 2-0
last week with his pick.
Yeah. Believe me, Mike, he called me, reminded me of that, too.
Little baby, right? Well, guys, we got the St. Louis Rams coming up, 4:05. out in the big arch out there, and hopefully the Ravens team that we know will meet us out there. Maybe in St. Louis. Let's hope. Steve Spagnuolo, fairly new head coach of the team, former defensive coordinator of the New York Giants, won a Super Bowl against the Patriots a few years ago. So a defensive-minded guy, he's going to get after it. And you take a look at this defensive line. One of the guys that sticks out, of course, Chris Long, Howie Long's son on this team. He's already got a couple of sacks through 2 games, though. They've got 7 sacks. So guys, they're going to come after the Baltimore Ravens and their offense, a 4-3 look. You're going to see multiple blitz schemes, and that offensive line, Tony, is going to be put to work here Sunday.
Yeah, they need to be prepared. They need to scout this team very heavily and figure out where those blitzes are coming from. Steve Spagnuolo is a guy who will bring it from any different location, any point in the field. And you saw on Monday Night Football against the Giants, and even in the game prior to that against the Philadelphia Eagles, they'll bring the corners, they'll bring the safeties. So Joe Flacco needs to be mindful of that because he hasn't in the past. So that's one thing they need to be aware of. But I think the Ravens, if they can get that quick passing game, run those slants, get those kinds of plays going, get those bubble screens going, which we didn't see in the Titans game, and get the running game going, which I think we've had a bad habit of abandoning too quickly, I think they should have their way with the Rams.
Clearly, Bobby, Joe Flacco, seemingly in his 4th year, is a guy that, much like Eli Manning, he needs that running game. He can't take it all on his shoulders and to be fair with the receivers he has, he can't take it all on his shoulders and just throw and win the game. He needs that balance from the running game.
Well, it's been said a lot. To win on the road, you have to take your defense with you, and you have to be able to run the football. When you're playing on the road in St. Louis on that AstroTurf, there's going to be noise. You've got a young head coach trying to make his mark, really right now trying to save his job too. I think he's in his 2nd year. And, that's a team that played pretty decent last year, had a lot of expectations going into the season, and he doesn't want to get off to an awful start. He's got a football team in the Baltimore Ravens coming in, and if they could beat the Ravens, that would certainly make a statement for that franchise. But I agree with you. The Ravens have to get back to being able to run the football. If they're not able to do it there, it's going to be some trouble because so far, again, we're only in week 3, but in week 2, it really hurt me that we didn't see Cam Cameron have a lot of confidence in Joe Flacco. We heard it all during the offseason. Hey, we're going to put the ball in Joe's hand this year. Joe's going to have a bigger role. Well, I thought against the Tennessee Titans that was the perfect opportunity for the Ravens to put the ball in Joe Flacco's hand. They didn't do it last week. Let's see if it's needed this week in St. Louis. If the Ravens get behind, let's see how they react and how they play.
John, the question's going to be, though, with Lee Evans, who may not play, or if he does, not 100%. David Reed's out. Torrey Smith, your other vertical threat, it's not done much as a rookie. Tandon Doss may play, but, can they do that? And again, we got to get Dixon and Pitt involved there. As a former tight end yourself, these guys are talented. Joe Flacco's going to need those guys.
They need Ray Rice. He's the best player on the field. The Rams give up 135 yards or so rushing every game. So really going to have to get him going, 40 yards rushing and the limited touches, get him going in the passing game. He's a volume back. Sure. He's a volume type guy. And it's like an offensive lineman. You need to keep pounding, and get in the groove. So you get him going. Of course, the Rams know that. So they're going to do everything they can to stop Ray Rice. So the tight ends, mixing it up, and we really need to see where the matchups are and exploit the matchups. And a lot of that is on Joe's in his head. Really, he needs to see and identify what's going on and make the right read.
Well, I tell you what, if I'm Ray Rice, I'm very happy with Cam Cameron and Joe Flacco because he's made them a lot of money in the last 2 years. Flacco checks down to Ray Rice and makes him look like a hero. So if they don't throw to the wide receivers, which they really need to do, they need to get the wide receivers and the tight ends involved in this offense. Otherwise, every team in the NFL knows that Ray Rice is going to get the ball coming out of the backfield either on checkdowns or screen passes. If they take away the running game and take away Ray Rice in the passing game right now, the receivers have been a non-factor other than Anquan Bolden. So let's see if the Ravens can get the other receivers involved in the offense this week.
And the way they blitz the St. Louis Rams, too, they leave their safeties very vulnerable. And a look one way from Joe Flacco can really get him opening up big lanes in the passing game, particularly with his tight ends, Dennis Pitta and Ed Dixon.
We saw the New York Giants get blitzed a lot. Now, Eli Manning was successful against it. When he was blitzed by 5 guys or more, he completed 57% of his passes on Monday night. Now, St. Louis was unable to score touchdowns in the red zone, so that's why New York won the game a little bit bigger margin. But New York was able to capitalize on that. We'll see if we can do that. Again, we talk about being a passing league, guys, but with the receivers being hurt, we need that running game. As you point out, though, Ray Rice is the target. If you shut him down, you don't have vertical threats out by Anquan Bolden now, you're going to be in trouble. And Chris Long, Fred Robbins, Justin Bannon, James Hall may not be household names to you, but they're pretty good guys and got some pretty good linebackers there as well. So we'll see how it all turns out on Sunday. But it's going to be an uphill battle for this offense, no doubt. Coming up, we're going to talk about the Ravens defense against St. Louis's offense. We'll also give our predictions coming up in a little bit as well. It's the Ravens Wrap Show here on Comcast Beach TV and 93.5 The Beach. More to come next.
Ravens Wrap is brought to you by Bud Light, FlyLady.net, Ocean City Golf Club, Comfort Inn Gold Coast, Ravens247.com, the original Green Turtle Sports Bar and Grill, and hosted by the Blue Ox Bar and Grill. Ravens Wrap is brought to you by Bud Light, FlyLady.net, Ocean City Golf Club, Comfort Inn Gold Coast, Ravens247.com, the original Green Turtle Sports Bar and Grill, and hosted by the Blue Ox Bar and Grill.
And welcome back in the Ravens Wrap Show here from the Blue Ox at Ocean City of the Ravens Room here on Comcast Beach TV, 93.5 The Beach. Ravens Roost number 44 out and about once again every Wednesday. And we invite all Ravens fans to come on down for our Wednesday show here. And guys, St. Louis coming up on Sunday. We talked about our offense against their defense. Now it's time to talk about our defense against their offense. Sam Bradford out of Oklahoma has done a pretty nice job with St. Louis and really has had a lot of no-name receivers. Now this year it seems like they've given him a few guys. You take a look at Mike Sims Walker they get in free agency from Jacksonville, not a bad guy. Denario Alexander, the rookie they drafted at the University of Missouri, or Missouri University, he looked really good, and he's getting a chance to step up. We talk about Kenny Britt. We knew about Kenny Britt, but Denario Alexander, John, he's 6'5". Okay, he presents some of the same size issues and physical issues that we had against Kenny Britt against Tennessee.
Oh yeah, he's been a kind of a project for them, and he's got a knee problem. He's got a degenerative condition in his knee. You saw that big knee brace on him, but he commands the ball, and he's an intriguing prospect for them. They like to get him on the field, but I don't know if he's ever played 2 games in a row. He was there last year, so hopefully his knee's bugging him a little bit because he dominated. And truthfully, he could have had 3 touchdowns in that game. He got stopped on the one. They wound up kicking a field goal. One ball that he was wide open on in the red zone was batted down. That was an easy touchdown. Of course, he had one. So, Brandon Gibson on the other side of the ball.
He's their leading receiver.
He's a solid player.
Mike Sims Walker.
Mike Sims Walker. He was the leading target in this past week. They're kind of loaded with no-name solid receivers, but they're all solid. So, our corners are going to have their work cut out for them again, Tom.
It'll be interesting to see Jason Brown, the former Raven, as their center, and it'll be interesting to see how he plays against this Ravens defense. Obviously, a defense that he's pretty familiar with. I know Chuck Pagano knew this year with their defensive coordinator, but as far as the Ravens go, but Jason Brown probably familiar with a lot of the personnel of the Ravens. Obviously knows Ray Lewis very well, so it'll be interesting to see some of the calls there. I think the matchup is Sam Bradford. He's a great young star in this league. He's going to be an outstanding quarterback. They had a chance to win the other night against the Giants, but I don't know if he's seen a defense very often like the Ravens. And obviously,
I thought that was a legacy.
Well, no, and a Ravens defense.
I can't believe we're putting out a defense.
That's not really happy about last week's performance. We got a lot of pressure against the Steelers. Didn't get too much against the Titans. I look for the Ravens to put a lot of pressure on Bradford this week. Blitz a lot more than he did last week against Hasselbeck, the veteran, and it really creates some turnovers because, as we've seen, turnovers are the key. If this team can create turnovers, it makes the offense and defense a lot better, and I think that's what needs to happen this week.
Yeah, I agree with Bobby, too. When you look at who the Rams have faced so far, they faced the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Philadelphia Eagles, as we saw when they played the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday night, their defense is not up to snuff right now either. And then the Giants, that defense has been obliterated with injuries, and they still struggled in the red zone against the New York Giants. So I think they're going to see a brand of a legacy of a defense that's a little bit stronger than what they faced before. And Sam Bradford, the important thing I think for the Ravens defense is not to let him get into a rhythm. he's going to run that no-huddle offense, and that sometimes has been an Achilles heel to the Ravens defense. So I think you got to disrupt that rhythm and get him off his stride a little bit.
Yeah, and to your point, Tony, I mean, you saw the Giants bring a lot of blitz right up the gut, and that's the way to disrupt a young quarterback like that. So, I mean, we're going to need to create some havoc and get a little more aggressive in our defensive scheme. So, Ravens have to really consider this game as almost a must-win desperation type game. You know what I mean? We lose to the Titans and the Rams and then come home against the Jets. We got to think, who the hell are we? So the Ravens have to pull out some stops here. And I wouldn't be surprised if Harbaugh a little edgy in his press conferences. He's in some people's faces and treating people, roughing some people up here. Roughing some of the coaches and the players up.
Well, something I think that helps the Ravens offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels, former New England offensive coordinator, a guy that we've seen a few times in the last couple of years. So we kind of know the scheme. We have some understanding of that. Guys, a stat though going back to last year, Sam Bradford is the worst quarterback in the NFL when under duress, completing 28.6% of his passes. And the other night against the New York Giants, again, when they rushed 5 or more, he was about 43%, about 15% less than what Eli Manning was doing. So clearly, though, when Bradford has time, he's a pretty good quarterback, can put it in some tight spots, throws a good ball, but under duress, not so good. So it's going to be incumbent, again, opposite Terrell Suggs, Tony. We got to get somebody else, whether it's Kruger or Kindle, whoever's active. We got to get to it and get after it.
Yeah, I think John brings up a good point, too. You got to come up the gut against him because that gets him disrupted. Because when he's able to step into his throw and plant, he really throws a good ball. But when he's disrupted up the middle, I think the 28.6% rears his ugly head. And, he throws a lot of those bubble screens to the outside.
Absolutely.
And, with pressure up the middle,
that puts the corners,
he threw a lateral, which ended up being a touchdown from the New York Giants. So I think the gut pressure, and I don't think it should be Ray Lewis. I think it should be somebody else because Ray Lewis, to me, is a bad blitzer.
It also puts the corners, though, out there on an island to make plays. We'll see what happens with that. Guys, also Steven Jackson, questionable for this game. I think their approach is to come out and throw the ball anyway, but with him being out, certainly that helps out. But Cadillac Williams, a serviceable backup. So we'll find out what happens. We'll continue more of our analysis of the Ravens and the St. Louis Rams, 4:05 out in St. Louis on Sunday here on Ravens Wrap Show on Comcast Beach TV and 93.5 The Beach.
What's this all about?
We're giving Rich the NFL experience of a goal line dive.
Really?
There's an easier way to get an ultimate NFL fan experience. Just snap the tag wherever Bud Light is sold and you can win. Bud Light in the NFL. Here we go.
Can I make it?
On the internet, yes. Into the end zone, no.
Beach Television Network. Your vacation starts here. Thank you for watching Beach Television Network.
And welcome back in. It is the Ravens Wrap Show here from the Ravens Room at the Blue Ox, 127th Street and Coastal Highway in Ocean City on Comcast Beach TV and Delmarva's Rock Radio, home of the Ravens, 93.5 The Beach. I want to thank our sponsors, Bud Light, FlyLady.net, the Ocean City Golf Club, also Comfort Inn Gold Coast, who sent me a nice email this week. They love the show. Appreciate you guys. You're a long-time loyal sponsor. Wow. Yeah, maybe they like me a little bit better than you.
I guess so.
Yeah. Ravens247.com. What?
Will you send me an email?
Sure, I'll forward it to you. The original Green Turtle Sports Bar and Grill and the Blue Ox Bar and Grill. Mike Bradley, Tony Lombardi, Bobby Vermillion, and John Garrett. Guys, the Ravens and the Rams coming up Sunday, 4:05 out in St. Louis at, what is that, some financial stadium field. I can't keep
Edward
up.
Jones.
Edward Jones. Okay, there we go. So,
the former Raven. They named the dome after him.
Okay, there you go. There you go.
That was Edgar.
Yeah, I think it was Edgar.
The Ravens 1-1. I'm sorry. The Ravens 1-1. The St. Louis Rams 0-2, coming off losses to the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Giants, a couple of NFC East foes. I guess one of the concerns, guys, though, is Ravens are 1-1. John, you talked about it last segment. Clearly, though, it's an important game for the Ravens. You don't want to start out 1-2 and then have the Jets, even though it's at home, have a tough Jets team come to town. At the same time, though, guys, got to be a little bit nervous. Hey, St. Louis, they're 0-2. Their backs are against the wall. You know you're going to get the best out of them come Sunday. This isn't any letdown game for the Rams, Tony.
No, and they're playing at home, and there's a sense of desperation. But sometimes you can use that desperation against the team. They might be a little too amped up, and sometimes if they're over-aggressive, you can use that in terms of play fakes and play action and use that against them. So I think there's a way to take that aggressiveness and make it turn into points for the Ravens.
I think they have to get off to a great start. I mean, Bruce alluded to this in Week 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think it's really important on the road to get off to a fast start. And if the Ravens can do that, I think it's going to help. If St. Louis gets the ball first, if the Ravens can get 3 and out, and the offense can get some momentum, and Flacco has some success with Ray Rice and maybe throwing the ball to some receivers, and we get on the board early, I think the Ravens will have a lot of success. If they get behind in this game, I think they're going to struggle a little bit. So I think this game's going to be a lot closer than people may think. I think the line's about 3.5 right now, and the Ravens are favored. So I think it's going to be a tight game, and it's going to be a tough out for the Ravens.
John, what you got?
Blowout. The Ravens are going to come back. You know, we had the Super Bowl trophy. Lombardi Trophy replica was here last week. All right, this week
and we lost.
This week, no one's buying their playoff tickets. You know what I mean? You know, we all fell off the wagon. So, you know, again, you play sports long enough, you're going to get beat by a team that shouldn't beat you. Just the way it goes. Ravens come out this week. Against a young quarterback. It's not a veteran. It's not a pro. I mean, the guy's going to be great, as Bobby said, but he doesn't have the knack of the game. He doesn't know the players. He's not, he doesn't know how to study, doesn't know how to prepare. He doesn't have the groove with some of his guys. So I think the Ravens come out and punch him in the face. I don't think this is too much of a game.
Well, certainly a concern. You get to the offensive line, guys. You know, if Ben Grubbs misses a second straight game, if Matt Burke, who we know at least hasn't practiced parts of this week, maybe that's being preventative, proactive, whatever, what have you. You know, if he doesn't play, then you're looking at, you know, guys like Mark LaVore and Andre Gerard getting his first start, their first start. Again, you've got a line in flux, Tony. It's a little bit of a concern in a dome, a loud dome at that, on the road.
Well, that was the point I was going to make, Mike, because when you play in a dome, those line calls are really key. You've got to have your idiosyncrasies in sync, and you've got to be able to coordinate with each other without a word being spoken. And when that dome gets, as Bobby was saying before, if they don't get off to a fast start, that dome's going to get crazy, and if it does, it's going to make it really hard to make those line calls, particularly if Garrard is making his first start.
Hey, look, if it goes bad, just fake a couple injuries, lay on the field a little bit, and we'll be all right. We'll get our bearings back.
You know, there's been some talk too that the Titans picked up our cadence last week and was jumping our count. And you know, I don't know if you noticed it during the game, but Yanda was looking back and he was making some of the calls on the offensive line, and then he would look back, and as soon as he would look back, it seemed like Tennessee was getting a great jump. So I don't know if that happened last week.
This is my point. If that's the case, then Flacco needs to change the cadence.
My point was Yanda was making the calls, turning around as a guard. Now, he's not the center. The guard's turning around, looking at the quarterback, turns around, and then the ball was snapped. And it appeared, if you watch it, the Titans got some really, really good jumps.
It's a setup for this week, because he's going to do it this week, and they're all going to jump on sides.
Well, it didn't work last week. That's for sure.
Let's hope so. Well, good, John, go ahead. How do you see this thing breaking down?
Well, what are we doing here? Are we doing predictions?
We're doing predictions.
You say blowout. You say blowout.
Wags. And the wags, right? I think the defense scores. That's my wag. Defense shows up, scores a touchdown this week. I think I'm going to go 34-17. We'll double them up.
All right, Bobby, what's your wag?
And my wag is that Sergio Kindle dresses for the first time as a Baltimore Raven and gets some playing time in this game. I think he needs to be in the game. I think Kruger's not as athletic as Kendall. I think he'll put more pressure on the quarterback. I think the Ravens win this game. I'm a little concerned with the matchups because I don't think Steven Jackson will even be a factor. I think they're going to go after our corners just like Tennessee did, and that's how you beat the Ravens. But I like the Ravens 23-20. Cundiff kicks a field goal to win the game.
Got 15 seconds, 20 seconds.
Okay, well then my wag is going to be that Torrey Smith actually catches a pass this week.
It's still mine.
The Ravens win 20-16.
Guys, I agree. I think it's going to be a very close game here. On the road, you can't take any of these teams for granted. There's a ton of parity. I like the Ravens 24-20. For John Gehrig, Bobby Vermillion, Tony Lombardi, I'm Mike Bradley. The Ravens and the Rams coming up. Go Ravens. We'll catch you next week. The Ravens Wrap Show on Contest Speed TV and 93.5 The Booth.
Ravens Wrap is brought to you by Bud Light, FlyLady.net, Ocean City Golf Club, Comfort Inn Gold Coast, Ravens247.com, the original Green Turtle Sports Bar and Grill, and hosted by the Blue Ox Bar and Grill.